Okay, let's dive into this. We're living in a time where massive trillion-dollar AI models can, write complex software from scratch, compose poetry, and literally pass the bar exam. But we wanted to investigate something far more fundamental. Can these modern large language models actually compile comprehensive, accurate data? Are they capable of just making a good list? We are unpacking a super fascinating experiment today that put the world's top AI models to a surprisingly basic test.
The prompt used for this is deceptively simple and, honestly, totally unglamorous. It was basically, get me a list of all unicorn companies in India as of date, excluding companies that have gone public, got acquired, or became defunct. That's it. This exact, straightforward instruction went to 4 heavyweight contestants: Google's Gemini, OpenAI's GPT, Anthropic's Sonnet, and Manus, which is a highly capable browser agent. There was no handholding, no special PDFs uploaded. Just a raw test to see how a trillion-dollar intelligence handles basic rules and web searching.
But before we reveal what the AI models actually returned, we have to anchor our baseline expectation, 97. That's the magic number. It is the verified master list count of active Indian unicorns meticulously compiled from ground truth sources. This number is reality, and it's the exact standard we're going to use to judge our AI contestants.
Section 1. Grading the AI models.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how an AI can confidently spit out a beautifully formatted list, and that high headline count masks a brilliant illusion of competence. There's a massive precision recall mismatch here. Take Manus, for example. It returned 99 names, but its actual accuracy against the master list was about 83.5%. Gemini found 86 names, hovering around an 82.5% accuracy. But wow, you have to pay attention to OpenAI's GPT. It only returned 64 names, and its accuracy was a staggering 49.5%. It literally missed half of the verified master list. Nearly a quarter of the names GPT gave back had absolutely no business being there.
Section 2. The missing unicorns.
Think of this part like a detective story. We aren't talking about tiny, obscure startups slipping through the cracks. We're talking about massive, ubiquitous companies that these incredibly advanced models just dropped. The reality is, not a single model got a clean sheet. GPT somehow forgot massive mainstream players like BharatPe, CoinDCX, and PhonePe. I mean, how do you miss those? Anthropic's Sonnet dropped widely known brands like Boat and InMobi. Even Gemini, which had really strong overall recall, completely struggled with newer specialized B2B names like Fire and Cedius Tech. And Manus, despite actively browsing the live web, still completely missed FarEye and MoEngage.
Section 3. The hallucination problem.
But omissions are really only half of the puzzle. We also have to talk about the extras, the companies these models enthusiastically hallucinated despite our explicit exclusion rules. Because comprehensiveness isn't just about grabbing everything, precision matters just as much. Notice Gemini's impressively low rate here, only 6 false positives. That's fantastic when you compare it to Anthropic and OpenAI, tying at 16 each. And then there's Manus, leading the pack with 19 entirely hallucinated extras. To really get why AI fails here, it helps to categorize the mistakes. First up, type 1 errors, the graduates. Remember, the prompt explicitly said to exclude companies that had gone public. Yet, the absolute most common mistake across all 4 labs was just completely ignoring that rule. Heavily covered public companies like Grow, Misho, and Ather Energy were repeatedly thrown into the mix. It's like the models understood the task conceptually, but completely failed to apply the filter against their own internal knowledge.
Then we have type 2 errors, the defunct and acquired. We're talking companies whose unicorn status is totally gone, like Byju's, Rivigo, and Unacademy. Honestly, AI is kind of like that friend who remembers the peak of a massive party, but completely forgets the hangover the next day. It perfectly learns the front page hype of a company's unicorn moment, but struggles immensely to basically unlearn that status when a highly publicized downfall or acquisition actually happens.
Moving on to type 3 errors, corporate subsidiaries. This one was a very specific blind spot for Anthropic. It kept populating its list with conglomerate arms like Reliance Jio, JSW1 Platforms, and Tata Passenger Electric Mobility. A unicorn, by definition, is inherently an independent, venture-backed startup. Anthropic fundamentally confused massive, established corporate subsidiaries with independent startup entities.
Finally, we have type 4, bootstrapped and proud. These are self-funded giants, think Zoho and Zerodha. They are undeniably valued well above $1 billion for sure, but they never raised external venture capital.
By including them, models like Manus and OpenAI basically proved there were just pattern matching on the valuation number alone. They completely ignored the venture funding lineage that is entirely central to the term unicorn.
Section 4. The agentic trade-off.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our technical understanding of these models by juxtaposing Manus against Gemini. Manus used an agentic web search. That means it actively browsed the web, kind of like a human researcher might. And yeah, it achieved the best raw recall, but it also dragged in the highest noise with those 19 false positives. Gemini, on the other hand, used a live search approach. It was highly precise, generating only 6 false positives, and effectively tied Manus on overall accuracy. What this tells us is incredibly fascinating. Sometimes, giving an AI more power to actively scour the internet just surfaces more noise.
Section 5. Patterns in AI failure.
As we wrap up this experiment, we really need to step back. When you look at all this data together, distinct themes start to jump out. So the crucial point is really captured in these 4 core blind spots. 1. Valuation staleness. Models index consumer hype and peak valuations way better than they index a company's quiet decline. 2. Prompt filtering failures. They consistently struggle to apply explicit negative constraints to their own internal data. 3. The specialized SaaS blind spot. AI is much better at remembering flashy consumer apps than solid B2B realities. And 4. The agentic trade-off. We just saw how active searching often trades precision for a whole lot of noise.
Which leaves us with a pretty massive question to ponder. These tools are undeniably powerful, right? But their confidence often vastly outstrips their actual accuracy. So the next time you ask an AI for a comprehensive list, whether you're doing serious research, investing, or just satisfying a personal curiosity, will you trust its beautifully formatted illusions, or will you take the time to verify the reality? Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, and we'll see you next time.